Hello and welcome to the seventh episode of This Week in Hollywood. I am back again, of course, as your host, Adam Robson, joined by my great co-host, Reese Wiegman.
How's it going, everybody? Good to be here.
Glad to hear it. And we have a pretty loaded podcast today, I would say. We're going to be hitting a lot of stuff. We got some good new trailers out that I'm excited for. But, of course, we're going to start off with what we have seen or plan on seeing. And right off the bat, I saw the new Transformers Rise of the Beast yesterday, opening night. Reese, I know you wanted to see this. Did you get a chance to see it yet?
I have not seen it yet, so I'm excited to hear your thoughts.
Okay, well, I have already put my review on the channel for those wanting to listen. But without spoiling anything big, I would say it was okay. I think it was about as good as maybe like the first Michael Bay one. It's nowhere near Bumblebee at all. Human characters really dragged it down, but that's every Transformers movie, in my opinion. The big thing that I wanted to talk about, but since you haven't seen it, I want you to pay attention to and hope we can talk about it when you see it. The pacing of the movie. It hits the midpoint and then it like starts sprinting to the end, and it is so weird. I thought,
Sure.
But yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that one.
Yeah, I'll keep an eye out for that. I went and saw The Boogeyman this past week, a couple days ago. Went and saw that. I have not seen the new Spider-Man either yet. Hoping to do that in the next couple days here when I'm down in San Diego with one of my friends. But The Boogeyman it's better to me for as far as studio horror stuff goes. It was better than like Smile that came out a few months ago in like October, but it still kind of ended up in that weird, studio schlock kind of category. Unfortunately, by the end, it was directed by the same guy who did Host, which like was a horror movie that came out during the pandemic and was filmed exclusively on Zoom, like in the style that like the Unfriended movies are filmed on. But it was like actually just like recorded on Zoom, and so there wasn't like those like fake video glitches. So there was times where like the filmmakers probably like didn't want the cameras to stutter, but they were stuttering anyway, and so it felt so much more authentic. That movie rules. This was him kind of like getting his bag a little bit, and there's some really effective scares in there, but unfortunately, like I really wish they would have kept the creature, the monster, like in the dark a lot longer, because the beginning was scary whenever you had no idea what this thing looked like, and then you kind of start to get a few glimpses of it, see that it's just a little CGI monster, and it kind of fizzles all of its power out. But still, I think for a June horror movie, a late May, early June horror movie,
not terrible.
Of course, want to check it out. Yeah, it'll scratch that itch.
That's good. I've heard it's pretty decent. Isn't it based off, I think, Stephen King, a short story?
Yeah, it's a Stephen King short story. Yep.
Okay. Exactly. Yeah, and then I figured, but I've heard it's been decent. Yeah, they didn't show the monster in the trailers, but it does play on that like darkness kind of thing because it's in the shadow a lot.
Yes. Yeah, there's some cool lighting techniques and stuff they do. But yeah, so Boogeyman, give it like a half enthusiastic thumbs up.
Nice. I might have to actually check that one out, as well as Spider-Man. I was thinking about checking Spider-Man out as well. I've heard it's very good. I'm just not big into the Marvel stuff, and I still haven't seen the first one, so I might have to run through both of those.
Really? Yeah, definitely. I think see the first one first, but like the new one, it's the highest rated movie ever on Letterboxd right now. It is the number one rated movie ever on Letterboxd. So a bunch of people got their feathers all ruffled up about that, but. Yeah, it came out swinging. That seems to happen every time one of these kind of Marvel movies or just like a superhero movie comes out that's even remotely good. It just gets insane reviews, and it seems like this happens a lot. But going into something I'm planning on seeing, I went crazy this past week. I got a bunch of movie tickets. So, like, for example, next Thursday I'll be seeing The Flash. That will be going on my channel as well with the review. I just kind of I'm more in it to see how much of a train wreck it is. Not at all a fan of like the newer DC stuff, but if they're restarting everything, I want to see how they do it. So I decided to see that. Plus Michael Shannon, love him. Following week, we're going to have Asteroid City. I will be reviewing that as well. Very excited for that, Wes Anderson. And then I got my Oppenheimer tickets. Little bit of a ways off, but I'm excited for that one as always. Yeah, I got my Oppenheimer tickets too. I think, I'm seeing it in 70 millimeter at the Universal City Walk. So I'm very, very excited for that. And like you said, I'll check out The Flash. And my one funny note about The Flash, I saw a quick like spot trailer for it on TV the other day during the hockey game. And like they had like whenever they're doing these like review trailers where they have like best movie of the year, then like whoever said it, and I didn't
Yeah.
recognize anybody or any publication that was like saying these nice things about it. I was like, what are these things? And sometimes it just had like someone's like Twitter handle, I think, and so that was just really funny that I had
Jeez.
absolutely no idea who was saying these outlandish things about it.
That's just making me more excited because now it just seems like it's going to be a big swing and a miss. And I've looked. My theater on opening night is packed, and I hope I'm not the only one laughing if it's just completely stupid. But yeah, I also saw, by the way, the theater up here is showing Oppenheimer in 70 millimeters. So I've already got my IMAX tickets.
Whoa.
I might do the 70 millimeter as well. I haven't decided yet, but I'm thinking about it. Definitely be interesting to see it
Yeah,
in
I
70
think you will.
millimeters. I missed Hateful Eight. I would have loved to see that in 70 mil, but didn't get to see that, unfortunately. So hopefully this will be a nice one to go for. But going over to something a little bit, I would say, maybe on the, I'm not going to say anything because we're going to jump into our Mission Impossible 2 review for the week. As you guys know, we are going through all of them and the build-up for the next Mission Impossible coming out this June. And we are Mission Impossible 2. Now, last week we did 1. We both thought it was pretty well. I think we gave it 7.5 or a 7 out of 10. Pretty decent, in my opinion. Definitely an action movie everybody needs to see that kicks off that. But I would like to hear your opinions on Mission Impossible 2.
Okay, well, just generally, really quick, it's a very curious movie on how, like, watch from the first movie and then like how we got to here is just like a wild ride, and I'm trying to kind of connect the dots without like really reading into anything. But when you see, just like I don't even know where to start. When you see Tom Cruise for the first time, and not whenever the second time, I guess, whenever you
yes, the real first time.
When you see Tom Cruise real time, and he's just like climbing this mountain because it just like looks cool, I guess. There's no real reason why he's doing it. It seems like old Tommy's on a big ego trip in this movie, and it's so like hot and sexy for like at least the first half of it. It's like this like soft romancy movie almost, and it's half of it's in slow motion. The movie would be like 40 minutes shorter if they're like if half the movie was in slow motion.
I wrote down these slow literally maybe 20 minutes in my notes, I wrote down the slow motion is out of control. It is at least once a minute something is slowed down. It is ridiculous.
It's
obviously
crazy.
This is John Woo. I think I brought it up last week, but the first 5 are all different directors. So this was John Woo, huge film director over in Asia, kind of created the gun fu genre of, running around with 2 guns, which we see in this, brought in to direct this. Might I say, maybe the most perfect 2000 movie ever. Like, this just gives off, even though it wasn't 2000, I think it was 2001, but just like the most 2000 movie possible with the acting, the terrible CGI at the beginning. I don't know if you noticed with the plane, but I would say it's worse than the helicopter CGI in the first one.
Yes, no, I totally agree. It was crazy looking, and I did look whenever after the opening sequence to see exactly what year this came out because I knew it was like those early 2000s, and it did come out in 2000. Got released in 2000 because I was like, there's no way that they opened this like plane going down thing if this movie came out after 9/11. That's what I really wanted to know. But
makes sense.
Yeah, that opening CGI was like really, really rough. And kind of what I think for me, ultimately, the whole movie falls apart, or like it doesn't stand in comparison to the first one. Because in the first movie, like Ethan really has his back up against the wall, right? He's the only person who could do this mission, like to get himself absolved, essentially. And so, but in this movie, it's like the mission doesn't even particularly seem to be impossible. Like, seems to be like maybe a little tricky at most.
Mission tricky.
Yeah, like I don't think that like just Ethan needs to like go do this. Like, couldn't they just like send a bunch of like a bunch of squads in here to do this thing? Like, it doesn't seem like it needs to be like a one guy thing. It seemed like a James Bond movie to me more. Like, they kind of had like the whole Bond girl thing going on. I was just like, none of it really holds up. I'm not going to try to like poke holes in it because we won't get anywhere, or we'll get very far very quickly. But yeah,
no, I would 100% agree. Like Ethan Hunt, and I think her name is Naya, but it's played by Tandy Newton. Just no chemistry, in my opinion, whatsoever. And then the fact that they're like, that he ruins her heist, obviously, and then it's like, Where? Why are you in love after you spun in a car in slow motion and almost died? Like they're
I know.
like
It's like, well, you'll have to catch
insanely in
me,
love
and then
after
they
that.
like kill each other, and then it's like, well, I guess
I
we're just
know it's
gonna be
so
in
weird.
love now. Like, all
So
right.
really quickly, before we keep going, I will put up the spoiler timestamp for you guys to jump ahead as we get into the plot here and just talk about a little bit more of the insides of this movie. I would definitely say you can skip this one if you're not wanting to see all six before the new one. This is the one you could skip by far. But if you are a diehard and want to see them all, I would watch it. But yeah, skip ahead to this time before we get into this. So I wanted to say really quickly, I wrote down a bunch of stuff, just some rapid fires really quickly off the bat here. Slow-mo out of control. Masks out of control. Rock theme song way worse than the original. Sunglasses is hilarious. When he throws those sunglasses in the beginning, I was laughing out loud.
That was good. That was good.
I did, however, like this idea of a bioweapon MacGuffin kind of thing. It takes it away from like the modern spy stuff. It's all nuclear weapons, nuclear warheads. I did like the bio weapon aspect of it. But in the middle of this movie, right when they're kind of introducing the bioweapon, oh my, I thought I was getting whiplash because it's throwing to Ethan in the desert staring at the computer screen. Then it's going to whatever's, I forget his name, Ambrose, with Naim, and then they're like jumping to a horse race. They're coming back off the horse race. It's whiplash editing, in my opinion, and it was honestly hard to follow, even though I've seen this.
No, I completely agree.
You're
Like you're getting thrown on everywhere, and I'm kind of like, I mean, the plot's not hard to follow, and that was like, I think that was one of the digs on the original movie was that
yeah,
like people were like, some critics were like, the plot's too complex, and they like really made sure that that was not going to be an issue in this movie. But still, I'm kind of like, wait, what's going on? Like is anything like, am I missing something? Because it almost seemed like with as many cuts that are happening, like as cuts like are happening, like we should be getting
oh
more
my
information,
God.
but we're really not getting more information. I kind of get like 40 minutes into this movie, and it's like, okay, did a bunch happen that I missed, or is this just like we're just kind of just still going here, and it's really just still going?
I really don't understand. And for all of you that don't know, which I'm sure is everybody, me and Reese both do editing professionally. Like that is our job. And just watching this, like I can't count how many times there was a snap zoom to when someone shoots a gun and then you are the bullet flying at the thing it's shooting for maybe a fourth of a second. It is so weird. I just don't know why you would ever do that.
Yeah, and it's like this kind of action, just like I really just like kind of turn my brain off while it's happening. Like this like
Yes,
very
I
like
want to get to
non
the action in this.
yeah, like
But
very
before we get to the
non-story driven
action,
editing. Yeah.
I would say honestly though, in the first half, even though it was a little confusing, up until about like after I would say when he's breaking in to steal the Chimera virus, I say I was kind of in. But then I want to point out first of all, him breaking into the biosyn, whatever it's called, I think it's biosyn. That is just the Langley heist toned way down and not nearly as good. I mean, they even do the drop
Totally.
over the window through the top, and then it's a terrible version of the Langley heist. And I don't know why on the second movie in this series you do such a big callback to the movie that came out like 4 years ago and like such a homage almost to that scene, and it's just worse.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. It felt like they just took like dug up like any old script that had like spy things happening in it, and then just like
Yes.
took okay, what did people like about Mission Impossible? They liked the masks, and they liked the rappelling down the rope, and like, okay, well, we'll put that in there for sure, and then like slap Tom Cruise in it and like package it, send it out the door. It was just kind of like those are the only two things that he carried over, and it was like, okay, well, yeah, like that stuff's cool, but like it doesn't need it. Like, no, it's not the whole thing.
No, exactly. I'm almost convinced that Tom Cruise saw Face Off that John Woo directed and said, "Oh, yes, we can do masks, exactly. Bring him in." Yeah, it's so odd. I also wanted to point out, I know you're big into music. The music in this is so weird. It's like an opera song. Every time someone does the smallest task, it's in the background wailing, and I'm like, "What is going on?"
Yeah, and you got that like rock, as you alluded earlier, that rock version of the theme song, which like I kind of dig, but like
Biscuit, by the way,
it's just wild.
Yeah. I also wanted to say Anthony Hopkins shows up, great actor, maybe has the easiest job out of anybody, maybe shot for a day. I mean, those scenes fly by, but You went back to saying maybe Mission Tricky. I love the line where he's like, "Well, that's why this is Mission Impossible. It's Mission Difficult should be a walk in the park."
I know that was insane. I was like, because this is based off a TV show, right? Like that's the whole thing.
Yes,
Or like, I was like, that had to be a line. I didn't look it up, so I don't know if it is or not. But I was like, I really hope that that was a line in the TV show, and they're just trying to do like that was supposed to be an homage to the TV show or something. Because if somebody wrote that specifically for this movie, that is crazy.
it is something. I was also I don't know if you noticed this in the end, just some more weird stuff I noticed. Uh, do you notice when he Ambrose goes to do the final deal with Brendan Gleeson, I don't remember his character's name, but in there, and they're in that like underground bunker thing. Did you notice that Ambrose's entire outfit is full denim?
I did not. I did not notice that honestly. But that's
Dude,
really good. That's very
the
and
actual
that's
pants are denim, and then his undershirt, his tie, and his suit jacket are all denim. I could not believe it. I was at that point in the movie, I'm like so bored almost that I was looking for anything. And now let's get into this. The action. The action
mhm.
in this is horrendously bad compared to the first movie. To this, it is a joke how bad it is in this.
Yeah, and it's like, and there's some scenes that like they look good, you know, like they look cool. There's some really good imagery here, but the
Yeah.
action is just it just feels so weightless. And like, there's multiple reasons. I mean, like, I think that play into that, especially like you never really feel the implications and like the weight of what the mission is. Like, you don't really feel all of the like what could like the fallout of what could happen if this gets out there. Like, you
Yes.
never see anybody really like get the virus. You don't see like the stake. Never
When you
really
do
seen
see it,
that
it's also on a
high.
camera. So you're like, okay.
Yes, right. And so you see that, but you like also like I was expecting like there to be a small outbreak, right? And then
Yes.
Ethan would have to like quarantine. You know, there's going to be like, oh shit, like that's how this gets Mission Impossible. Like now this like the thing is out there in the real world. Like we're gonna have to quarantine people. We're gonna have to like get this thing in, or else the whole world's gonna get infected like that. And that never really happened. It all felt very contained. Again, which is I'm like, why is
Yeah,
Ethan the only guy who can like be here to do this? Like, why can we not send like some Navy SEALs in here to like just nip this thing in the bud real quick?
exactly. And so good and a great observation bringing up that it's so contained. It's like Ethan's team is him, Luther, and the Australian guy, and then Ambrose's team is literally like Ambrose, the guy who hurts his finger that gets
Yeah.
the mask fake out, which I think is the only good mask fake out in the movie. And it's like there's nobody, and then Tandy Newton's character, and that's it. It just feels like there's nobody in the movie. It feels so contained because Ambrose is always at his house. Ethan's always at that place in the outback, which, by the way, hilarious scenes when he just walks out and stares into the distance and they're just like silhouetting him in the background. I'm like, what are we looking at here? But yeah, and then also with the action, I wrote it down because it was memed by Ben Stiller. I don't know if you've seen it, but Kicking Impossible. It's literally you could rename this movie that with how many kicks he throws.
That's really good.
Yeah, and then also I don't know if you noticed in the end there's like a silent neck snap with his legs. I laughed out loud when that happened because of how just comical it was. And I think it really breaks down to my main observation that I made on it in this watch was that this movie is extremely silly, but is trying to be so serious 24/7. And I
Exactly.
think that's why you talked about Ethan looking like sexier and more serious in this one with the longer hair and trying to be like this big hunk, which he isn't. He shouldn't try to be. And it's so hard to not laugh at those scenes, I feel like.
Yeah, especially because we talked about, you know, and that's what I really zoned in on the first movie. It was like, oh, it's so cool that, you know, Ethan does eventually go on his own in the first movie and has to like, you know, absolve himself, take this mission upon himself. But at first you're like, oh, this is just a guy who's just like in a crew, right? And he's like the smart guy. And yeah, he has some physical prowess to him, but he's like smart as all get out. Where then in
Yes.
this movie, it just felt like he was more of like a Batman, James Bond character who just like
Almost,
had
yeah.
his little gadgets and just like goes into war, guns a blazing. And I'm like, that's not the guy from the first movie at all.
No, there's a huge tonal difference between this. Again, it's so weird
And he wasn't
that
that cool in the first movie. I mean, he was cool
no,
at the
he
beginning, but he was cool, but
wasn't.
he didn't think he was cool.
No, he was a nice guy. In quipping in the beginning with the whole team in Prague before that mission, that's who he is. He's a charismatic guy, but he's not Mr. Cool 24/7 in this where he's like, "Oh, the perfect face that I have to hold in this." And like especially after like rolling in midair to shoot a gun. It's just ridiculous. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah,
And then
really
also,
crazy. Yeah, and then especially like the motorcycle at the end, whenever like they're
oh my
driving at each
God.
other, and like I mean, they should if they touch anything, they should basically explode as human beings, and they just
Yes.
kind of tackle each other.
That and the fact that I don't know if you noticed this as well. Every single car in that car chase is like the oldest, most un-action movie car ever. It's like a Lincoln Continental rolls down the street or a Pontiac. It's like your dad's car in a movie. I
Well,
don't know
whenever you're
why.
exploding cars, yeah, your budget for
Yes,
cars has to go quite go down a little bit, I
I
guess. So
guess. I just don't know. And then at the end of this movie, the fact that first of all, the fact this movie did not kill this franchise, baffling.
that's what I was
Second,
thinking too.
secondly, the idea that Naya and Ethan would ever be together after this is ridiculous. I mean, we went back to it with no chemistry and they fall in love after the car spin.
Yeah,
But then he's like, these two barely talked. He persuaded her into going back to her ex for a secret mission that almost got her killed. And then they're like, oh, I love you. And it's like, what is this?
it did make. I'm looking right now. It made $546 million. So
Yes. And
definitely
then,
gonna green light one of those, another one. But yeah, it is crazy that they were like, this came out, and then everyone's like,
I
"Yep, we'll
know.
just keep pumping them out." It could have killed this whole thing.
Well, they took a bigger break before the next one. So the first one came
Right.
out, I want to say, was it 96? And then this was 2000. And then I'm pretty sure 3 is 2006. So a little bit bigger of a break. But oh my God, I cannot wait for next week just to hear what you have to say about 3. Because just like you can't believe this follows 1 and they are together, wait until you see 3 after this. And you're like,
Okay,
oh my God, what happened? Like,
I'm
3
excited.
is so much more like 1.
Good to know. I'm excited. Well, I'll watch it very, very soon.
That's good. Great to hear it. I can't wait for that. Just a couple quick more things. Actually, one more thing. I find this heartbreaking. I don't know if you'll find it heartbreaking, but Dougray Scott is in this. He is Sean Ambrose, the main bad guy.
Yeah.
This movie finished shooting, and Dougray Scott was cast for another movie. But this movie had to have some reshoots, mainly because Tom Cruise saw how bad it was, and they locked John Woo out of the editing room so that they could edit it away, and they realized they needed reshoots. Dougray Scott had to come back to reprise Sean Ambrose, do those reshoots, and as a result, he had to back out of the movie he was already cast in and ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
That movie was
Yep.
X-Men, and he was going to be the Wolverine.
I did read that. I did read
That
that.
is
That's crazy.
so sad. Like, where could his career have gone if he went and was Logan instead of coming back to do this? I can't believe that.
Yeah, and this is like probably his most popular movie that he's been in, and just think he could have
I
been
was
in
going to
all of
say,
those
I
X-Men
haven't
movies.
heard of him in a lot of other things,
He
really.
was in Taken 3, Deep Impact, like that, and then basically a bunch of junk. Like that was,
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, X-Men could have been insane for him. I feel so bad about it.
yeah, for real. That's a career killer.
Yeah. Yes, but obviously, wrapping up Mission Impossible here, it's the odd duck, but honestly, I enjoyed watching it for a laugh. I found it a lot more comical than
It's
I did when I
charming in
first
some spots.
watched it.
It's got its own charm.
Again, interesting. Setting up everything is great, and then once the action starts coming in, that's where it loses me. Like every week, though, out of 10, what are we giving this one?
Ooh, I think 3.5.
That is low. I wasn't gonna go that low.
3.5, 4.
I was gonna say
Somewhere in
like a
there.
5, maybe. I could see a 4.5, but yeah,
Okay.
it's just. I would say like it's not. See, with 3.5, I would be like it's like genuinely bad. Like there's nothing I would have enjoyed, but in this there were parts I enjoyed. It looks good. It's shot well. The
Yes,
editing's what kind of
agreed.
killed it for me with the shots, but otherwise the shots are they're in Sydney. They show off a lot of the stuff in Sydney. But no, I think a 5. Maybe if I could be convinced to a 4.5, but yeah, not great by any means.
Agreed.
And then switching over to our movie trailers this week, we got 4, and we have some interesting ones. First up is going to be Bird Box Barcelona. Now, I could not believe we were getting the Bird Box sequel this far after the original. I mean, it's
For
been
real.
5 years now, I think.
Yeah, it's been a long time. I think when did it come out? 2018, I think, is when it came
2018.
out.
Right, yeah. And so like just so removed from that original. I mean, I guess if you're going to take such a break, that would be the move, is to just do a whole new area, because it doesn't look like Sandra Bullock will be in this at all. I mean, obviously, this is going to take in Barcelona, as the name suggests, mainly in Spanish, it looks like, which is very interesting. A lot of Spanish cast members, looks like maybe one of the directors looks to be Spanish as well. But what were your thoughts on the original Bird Box?
Though that came out, and it was basically like right in the coattails of A Quiet Place, and I loved A Quiet Place.
Yes.
And I remember watching. I watched it one time. Watched it with like a bunch of friends, just like in a basement, and it was like fine for that kind of night. But it's nothing. There wasn't a whole lot that Bird Box did that A Quiet Place didn't do, and
Yeah.
so again, like it's like totally fine and good. Like I'm, a sequel, sure, great, I'll watch it, but I'm like, not jacked for it.
Yeah, I think they've got to do something different. I mean, how many times can you have, first of all, something we can't see, the monster you can't see, as the audience, you can't see him. And then, how many times can you watch a bunch of people kill themselves and be like, okay, just cover your eyes and go about your life? I think it looks a little interesting. Definitely a bigger population than in the first one, more people in general. But yeah, I think they really got to do something different to either just separate it from that original or just keep us interested, because I don't want another Bird Box. I didn't just like you. I didn't think the first one was great. I thought it was a good movie, well made. I thought I got more praise than it deserved. But I'm interested to see this one. I'll definitely have to check it out. It comes out, I think, this July. It'll be out.
Yes, I think that sounds about right.
Okay, and then going over to our next movie this week, The Outlaws. Now, we talked about No Hard Feelings last week, which was like comedy, and talk about we haven't seen a lot of comedies. This seems to be going in the same direction almost.
Yes.
Another action kind of comedy coming out.
Yeah, I would say I'm less excited for this one than I am for the Jennifer Lawrence one. This just doesn't really grab me in a whole lot of ways. Like Pierce Brosnan, whatever. Adam Devine's in it. Don't care.
Love workaholics. Yep. Adam
Devine. Yeah, she'll be good, I'm sure. But
yep. Lil Rel Howery from Get Out as well.
Yes, good call. Good call. But yeah, I mean, there's a good chance I'll miss this one, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. It's like a guy, if I'm remembering right, he marries, or he's going to marry this girl, and then he's at a bank, and his it seems like his mother and father-in-law to be robbed this bank almost. Kind of, I feel like, gives away too much in the trailer, because the trailer starts off being like, did my in-laws rob this bank? And then it seems to very much imply that they did, which is like, why set up the suspense and then ruin it in your own trailer almost?
Yeah, exactly. It's like that kind of thing. It's like, why would I even want to watch this now? Like, you're just like killing all of your momentum going in.
Yeah, exactly. Again, might check this one out. Not too excited. However, the next one I can't say I'm not excited for, because Expendables 4 has finally been announced. And again, going back to last week, we saw Hidden Strike, which advertised the director of Expendables 4. Now we get to see it. What are your thoughts on this one?
So I've never seen any of the Expendables movies. So very neutral.
Okay.
Yes, maybe it'll be a good chance for me to catch up on all of them. But yeah, I guess if you're a fan, this will be fun.
It's a lot of like the inside jokes. Chuck Norris shows up in one, and they do like a bunch of Chuck Norris jokes. The cast on this is just really interesting. Sylvester Stallone and Jason Statham are the originals from that first one. Dolph Lundgren as well coming in this. Love some Dolph Lundgren. Iko Uwais is in this. I don't know if you've seen him in anything. He's really interesting from The Raid and The Raid 2. Andy Garcia, a bunch. That's The Raid, or not The Raid, sorry. That is Expendables. Just a bunch of big name action stars, older action stars that maybe aren't in a lot of movies anymore to get to come back. Megan Fox in this, though, I was baffled by that choice of why she'd be in this.
See, that almost makes sense to me. Like Megan Fox, like what has she really been doing lately? Like it kind of makes sense for her to kind of join a cast of like these like bigger celebrities who all kind of just like hop in and out of this franchise a little bit. Like that seems like something that Megan Fox could do.
Yeah, I mean, again, going back to Transformers, she was in those. She was in This Is 40. She was great in This Is 40, but this doesn't seem to get a lot of these, acting roles that you would think she was getting. She seemed to be really big in like the early 2000s, and then kind of just fell off almost.
Yeah, what is she? She hasn't done much of anything lately, as far as
Um,
I remember.
yeah,
She's in Unique Spindles 4, as you just said. I'm looking right now. She was in
she did the Teen
Rogue in
Turtles
2020.
movie.
Yes, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. But yeah, there's not a whole lot. She was in The Dictator, but then kind of like
That
a
was like a
bunch of dumb.
small role.
Yes, 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 yes. And then obviously, yeah, in her peak with Jennifer's Body in the Transformers movies.
Yeah, nothing much, but I like some of the Expendables movies. I might definitely have to watch them back and then maybe see this new one. But if they keep making them, obviously there's an audience out there, so I'm sure it'll make a little bit of money. Um, can't say the same about the next movie, although I'm extremely excited. I doubt it'll make any money. Poor Things, the new
Mm-hmm.
movie from director Yorgos Lanthimos. What do you think about this one? Because I loved The Lobster. I'm a big fan of The Lobster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for this. I like Yorgos, so I kind of trust him. So
Yeah,
I will definitely be checking this out. Killing of a Sacred Deer, great. Lobster, great. Dogtooth, all of those. Really interesting films. So I'm excited to see what he's going to cook up with this one.
yeah, I love Killing of Sacred Deer as well. I haven't seen Dogtooth or The Favorite yet, but I know I've heard they're good, so I'll definitely have to check those out. Past wise though, this one is really something. I mean, Emma
Yeah,
Stone, Margaret
great.
Qualley, Mark Ruffalo, Willem Dafoe coming in. Love me some Willem Dafoe.
Mhm.
Um, just a big cast there.
Huge cast. Like, yeah, like you said, Willem Dafoe, great. Seems like he's in almost everything now, which I like. I don't want to say, like, I'm definitely not sick of Willem Dafoe, but he is like in everything now.
Yeah,
Um, but no, he's great, obviously. Emma Stone, Mark Ruffalo. Yeah, I think this will be good. I'm excited for
yeah.
this.
I'm hoping. I'm hoping. Also, another cast that's been announced, no trailer yet, but there has been some talk about it. It's finally confirmed. Beetlejuice 2 is going to be coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Tim Burton coming back, and a lot of returning cast, but new cast as well. Not too much release, but Winona Ryder will be back. Speaking of which, Willem Dafoe is in this as well. Michael
Yeah,
Keaton, Monica Bellucci, and then Jenna Ortega is going to be in this after working with him on Wednesday. Seems like an obvious choice to bring her in as well.
yeah, I love. Yeah, Jenna Ortega. This seems like she'll slot right in this whole
Yeah.
cast. Willem Dafoe will be great. Yeah, I think this will be like a very solid like base hit that everybody's gonna probably forget about like a month after it comes out, but will be like a big thing, kind of like whenever Hocus Pocus 2 came
Yes.
out last year.
I'm hoping it doesn't though, because I mean, I would like this to be good. I love the first Beetlejuice, but like this is one of those movies, and I know we've talked about it on previous episodes where you gotta nail
Mhm.
it. Like you can't
Right.
not nail this movie. And with Tim Burton returning, I'm assuming he's like, this is definitely not just a paycheck. This is this is a passion project, I would assume.
Yes.
So
Yes,
I'm
exactly.
hoping he does a good job. I've also heard they're doing it exactly like they did the first one. Lots of practical effects. That scene with
Cool.
the head is awesome. All the stuff that Beetlejuice does in that is great. So yeah, definitely excited for this one. Hoping to see a good return to the characters and hoping it does turn out good.
Yeah, I think like you said, in Jenna Ortega having worked with Tim Burton, yeah, I think this should be. There's no way. I don't think it'll flop. It'll be solid for sure.
Yeah, I don't think it'll flop for sure. But with that, we are going to be wrapping up here. I want to thank you again, Reese, for hopping in this
Of
week.
course.
No, it was a little bit shorter. We'll try and have a more packed week next week. But until then, if you are enjoying what you're seeing, feel free to leave a like. If you want to keep up with the content, don't be afraid to subscribe. Any comments you want to add to these discussions, drop them below. And of course, we will see you guys next week.
Peace.